Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this webinar for the preparation of the ERC Consolidated Round interviews. In this webinar, I will give you some information on how to get prepared for your online panel discussion. This webinar is organized by Euresearch, my organization, for the ERC Consolidated Round candidates who passed step 1 of the evaluation procedure and are based in Switzerland. My name is Katja Wirth, and I am one of 3 Swiss national contact points, together with Veronique Sorde and with Judith Zbinden. Veronique Sorde will be your moderator in the chat today. You can reach the 3 of us with the email address erc@euresearch.ch. Please note that we will send you this presentation after the webinar in a follow-up email. We will also send you a private link to the recording. You are and will be muted during the entire duration of this webinar. We will also not use the camera. You will be able to interact with us for any problem or question via the chat. Honestly, I have to admit that I find it still strange to talk to the computer and not to be able to interact with you. I would so much prefer to see you in real and interact with you and discuss with you all your questions. But it is as it is at the moment. We have to live with that. During and after this webinar, you will have the opportunity to ask all your questions in the chat room. As I mentioned, Veronique is here to answer your questions. We will both remain 15 minutes after the webinar to answer your questions. Please note that we will not share with you the chat content after the webinar for reasons of confidentiality. As you know, this webinar is part of a training package that we offer to you in collaboration with our partner Euresearch. Additionally to this webinar, you have the occasion to participate in a private coaching with one of the 3 NCPs. You can discuss your questions and concerns you might have, and also get the feedback of your overall presentation or get prepared with your question and answers. The 2 proposed dates are the 21st of July and the 20th of August. If you have not registered yet, you can still do so via the doodle in the invitation email that we sent to you. Please be aware that we repeat this webinar on the 18th of August. It will be the same webinar. It is not a continuation of this webinar. Please note also that all our services are for free. The second module that we offer to you will be carried out by Euresearch. This is a consulting company based in Amsterdam. We have been collaborating with them for many years for the preparation of ERC interviews, and we do appreciate their expertise a lot. Your coaches will be Metis Grostad and Aya van den Kronenberg. They have both extensive experience in reviewing ERC grants. They offer to you to read your proposal and train you with the question and answer part of the session, with a session of about 60 to 75 minutes. The fee is €565. This is a special offer for candidates in Switzerland within this package from us. Please contact directly Euresearch if you're interested in this second module training with Euresearch. If everything is clear now, let's start with the webinar. We will provide you today with information on the timeline of the evaluation, how to understand properly your instructions, how the panel is organized, how you should get prepared, and do's and don'ts about your performance. I will also talk on the resubmission rules and finally show you some statistics about the Consolidator grant. Let me start with the evaluation timeline. This slide here shows you the planning of the evaluation. It is also published on the ERC website. As you can see, you will get the final result by mid-December. In our experience, it can be earlier, already towards the end of November. But we never know, especially in these particular times. If successful, you will then enter in the grant agreement preparation phase. It is during this period that you may solve any issues related to ethics. Once everything is prepared, you can start your project. We will inform you later on the Swiss situation with the ERC in the future, but at the moment, just be sure that if you get the grant under this call, your project will be safe, whatever happens with the Association of Switzerland to the next framework program. Some words about instructions. You all will have received the instructions that inform you on the settings, content, and duration of your interview. Please read it carefully. Please note that the instructions are tailor-made for each panel. The duration of the interview varies a lot among the panels. Regarding the duration, it is very important that you respect time and adapt your talk and your answers to questions to your time slot. But we will come to that later. Well, I'd like to give you now some information on the evaluation process. In the first evaluation step, as you probably know, only B1 of your proposal was assessed. Now, in the second evaluation step, both part B1 and B2 plus the budget are evaluated. The panel members assess your proposal remotely. In parallel, the ERC executive agency sent your proposal also to external reviewers. These are experts of your domain, whereas the panel members are most often generalists. There is no guarantee that you have a real specialist sitting in your panel, but this is not necessarily a disadvantage. Sometimes experts can be more critical with candidates of their own domain. Some words on the panels. Every panel consists of 10 to 15 panel members and one panel chair. These people are the same as the ones in step 1. You will have 2 to 3 lead panel members that are very familiar with your proposal. They have read it in detail. Normally, you can recognize them during the interview because they are the ones that start the discussion or ask you the majority of questions. We assume that this will also be the case in the online interviews, but of course we don't know because we have no experience with online interviews. In the past, the interviews were always physical interviews in Brussels in front of the panels. Conflicts of interests are taken very seriously. Panel members who worked with you or published with you or are from your institution are excluded from the evaluation of your proposal. They will not be present in the interview. You cannot know who is sitting in your panel. But in order to have an idea who might be in your panel, you can check the names of the Consolidator Grant panel members of 2018. Know that there are 2 sets of panels that are active every second year. This means that in 2020, the panel members of 2018 are active. We estimate that around 2/3 of the 2018 panel members are still active, and 1/3 dropped out. Perhaps you want to Google the names of the panel of 2018 to find out more about their background. The names of the panel chairs, on the other hand, are already published on the ERC website. You can find the link here on this slide that you will get afterwards. Evaluation criteria. You can see on this slide the evaluation criteria, and you find them also in the ERC work program and in the information for applicants. These criteria are important because it is the questions on which the evaluators will comment on, both the panelists and the remote referees. It is certainly a good idea to read them again at this stage. Why don't you answer these questions for yourself and hand out these criteria also if you organize a mock panel interview with colleagues or peers? Well, on the following slides, I'd like to share with you some tips. I start with the preparation for your interview. It is very important that you schedule enough time for your preparation. We strongly recommend to rehearse a lot. Rehearse in front of different types of audiences. Ask your peers and also persons from outside your domain to challenge you with difficult questions. Don't underestimate the importance of rehearsals. Be well familiar with your proposal and try to identify the weak points. Regarding your oral presentation, demonstrate why your research is so important and should be financed. Show also that you are up to date with the state of the art in your domain. The panelists want to see that you know exactly what is going on in your field and who are your competitors. The evaluators should also feel that you are the right person to carry out this project in terms of expertise, but also in terms of management skills and budget-wise. We strongly recommend to first build a clear structure of your oral presentation, to have a clear thread, a kind of a storyline through your proposal, and then to fill it with content. Start with the big picture and zoom then in. Your focus should rather be on conceptual points and not on technical details. The panel members can still ask you further questions, and most of you will not have enough time anyway to talk on technical details. Some words on the feasibility. Your presentation should give the clear impression that your project is feasible, as much as it is possible in your short time slot. And of course, you should prepare this point very well for the question and answer session. Of course, it is very important to stick to your allowed time slot. So train this again and again. I'd like to come now to the question and answer session. Usually the questions from the evaluators touch the project and the PI. They are often on the innovative aspects of the project, the novelty, but also the challenges and weaknesses of your project. Questions can be on the methodology, the concepts behind the project, and of course on the feasibility. The panel members want to be sure that the project is feasible and will not fail. Questions from the panel members can base on comments that were raised by external reviewers who are experts in your domain. So it is very possible that the experts recognize some inconsistencies or weaknesses or open questions, and the panel members will try to find answers to these comments and open points. It is important that you provide short, clear, and concise answers to the questions of the panelists. Train yourself with that. The evaluators usually have little time to ask all their questions, and they want to know a maximum in order to really understand all aspects and open questions of your project. Never say, this is a good question, because, of course, all questions of these eminent scientists are good. Never enter into debate with the panel. And of course, don't be arrogant. You can find on this and the next slide some examples of questions panel members might ask. They can ask questions on the groundbreaking nature of your project, on the key concept of your project, the importance of your project, but also more generally of questions on your field. The panel members will very probably ask you questions on the challenges, risks, and the feasibility. For example, they want to understand what is a contingency plan or what could be key intermediate goals to guarantee that the project is feasible. Questions can be on the research design and the methodology. They may ask you why you are using this and this method and not another one, and why you choose that and that design. Questions can also be on the resources of your project, even if this is less often the case. The panel will not discuss the height of salaries, etc. They rather would discuss whether all resources are needed to carry out the project. They tend to be more critical if you ask for additional resources. Regarding you, the principal investigator, you can find here different examples of questions that might be asked. And now some tips regarding your performance. You should demonstrate that you're happy to be invited to the interview. Indeed, this is a lifetime opportunity for you. It is great that you are selected to present your dream project to all these eminent scientists. Show your passion for your project, for your research, as much as this is possible in a virtual meeting. It is certainly more difficult as you are speaking to a camera and not to real people. But try to bring yourself in a kind of flow and try this. Bring over your emotions. Be confident. Imagine that you are among the best scientists in your domain and at your research age. This is why the panel invited you to present your project. Try to connect as much as possible with the audience. Be aware that most often decisions are not fully taken by the head, by intelligent arguments, but often by the stomach, by the emotion. So try to provide the emotions, the passion of for your dream project. It is normal that you will be stressed before the interview. Find your way to cope with the stress. If you have the feeling that the panel is very challenging, this is not necessarily a bad sign. It can mean, or it normally means that they are interested in your project and want to clarify just the open questions. Talking online is different from talking in vivo. Your most important tool is your voice. Body language in such a setting plays only a minor role, and the tool that makes a real difference is your voice. Be well aware of that. You should make an effort to articulate better and to speak slower. Check also well your microphone to ensure a good sound quality. Engaging with the audience can be tricky online. Use the intonation in your voice to grab the attention. and use short sentences. Look in the webcam directly. This is the only way how to make eye contact with your audience. Don't stop looking at the camera. Record yourself again and again. Check out what looks fine and what needs improvement. Do this many times. This is a very powerful tool that you can use. Regarding technical infrastructure, we recommend you to prepare a professional setup. Your institution can certainly help you. Check with your Euresearch regional office or with any other contact person how they can support you. Perhaps you can have a professional background with the host institution logo on it. Check it out with your institution. Use a professional micro and professional camera. Some words about dress. Dress up nicely to show that this moment is important for you, to show respect. Dressing styles are very different in different disciplines, so adapt your style to your to the typical dress code in your discipline that is very different, let's say in economics compared to IT or ICT. Perhaps you can dress as if you would give a talk in a conference of your discipline, a little bit better than normal, but not overdone. By the way, with the follow-up email that we will send to you after this webinar, we will also send you some guidelines about virtual presentations. And now some words on the resubmission rules. As you pass step 1 and are already in step 2 of the evaluation, there will be no resubmission restriction that applies to you. You will be eligible for the 21 call in principle, but you have probably heard that the actual framework program Horizon 2020 ends at the end of this year, and the next framework program Horizon Europe starts next year. This means that Switzerland has to be newly associated to the next framework program. And at the moment, we don't know when and how this will be possible. Switzerland is doing everything to be fully associated to Horizon Europe, but the official negotiations just have not started, so we can't say anything of it. Inside the ERC, the eligibility criteria will remain the same in Horizon Europe as in Horizon 2020. This means that the eligibility window of the 7 to 12 years after the PhD degree for the consolidated grant will remain. And also the date of the 1st of January as the reference date for the calculation of the eligibility window will remain. Please note that ERC calls will be delayed in 21 compared to the normal ERC call calendar. And perhaps even the whole new framework program Horizon Europe will start later than 1st of January 21. I'd like to share with you now some statistics regarding the consolidated grant. This graph here shows you the number of consolidated grants in 2019, as well as the success rate. You can see Switzerland on the right side among the associated countries. As you can see, researchers in Switzerland got 24 grants, and Switzerland had the highest success rate. A higher number of grants was awarded to researchers in UK, Germany, France, and the Netherlands. The red line represents the average success rate. Every year, the picture is very similar, with Switzerland on the 4th or 5th rank in the country ranking, and most often, Switzerland has the highest success rate in all ERC grant competitions. This graph here shows you the success rate for the second evaluation step in the 3 different domains, PE, LS, and SH. Again, for the 2019 call. The dark green bar represents the number of funded projects. The light green bar represents the projects that were fundable, but not funded because of lack of money, so-called unfunded A. And the orange bar represents the projects that were not funded and got a so-called B. As you can see, the success rate was somewhere around 40 and up to almost 50% after the first evaluation step in the second evaluation step. The success rate over both evaluation steps is more or less the same in all panels and domains. But be aware that panels can be more strict in the first or in the second evaluation step. So some panels tend to be more strict in the first evaluation step and then would consequently be less strict in the second evaluation step and vice versa. This slide here shows you the number and percentage of grants per panel, again in the 2019 call, and the proportion of female grantees. As you can see, the number of proposals per panel varies a lot. So the work per panel is very different. Some have huge amounts of proposals to evaluate, others not that many. On this slide, you see the outcome of the 2019 competition and the success rate of different types of applicants. The dark green bar represents the percentage of grants, and the light green bar represents, again, those who should get the grant but could not get funded because the budget was too low. You can see that reapplying grantees have by far the highest success rate. You can see that we had even 2 double grantees who applied for the 3rd time for an ERC grant. The success rate of free applicants, those who already have tried in the past but not got the grant, is also slightly higher than that of new applicants. This means that it's worth trying. Even if candidates don't get the grant, their success rate is slightly higher in the next trial. And on this slide, you can see the number of grants in relation to the years past PhD. It's obvious that most of the grants were awarded to candidates 11 years after their PhD degree. But when you look at the red line, the success rate, it is also obvious that the success rate doesn't increase very much with growing numbers of years past PhD. The message here is that it is well worth to submit an ERC proposal early in the career. Perhaps you can convey this message also to your younger peers. The situation is the same for the starting grant. And now 2 last slides on the actual 2020 call. You can see that 2,500 proposals were submitted to the actual call, thereof 1/3 of female applicants. We expect that 343 projects will be funded, which means a success rate of around 13%. We have no idea how many proposals were submitted from which Swiss host institution. And we only were informed about your success either by you or by your host institution. But the ERC does not inform us who is in the second evaluation step or how many persons from which country are in the second evaluation step. And this last slide shows you the number of submissions in 2019 and 2020 for the different host countries. You can see that around 120 proposals were submitted from host institutions in Switzerland. Switzerland is again among the associated countries on the right side. Well, I'm going to conclude my presentation. I would like to thank you for your attention. Here you can see again our contact details. And I'd like to mention again that we are most happy if we can support you at any stage of your application, but also afterwards during your project. I wish you all the best for your interview. And believe me, I would like so much to talk to you in reality and to congratulate on your first success. It's great that you are all here and that you are so close to a grant. My colleague Veronique remains available to answer all your questions, and we will answer all your further questions per email or by phone or in the bilateral meeting we will have. I wish you a very nice afternoon and goodbye.